Welcome to Deep Thought. Social class shapes behavior. Social class shapes behavior, and this is very important to understand because I talked about religion. That's a bigger thing. You know, that's overall, like you got to look at that on a global scale, even a bigger region scale if you want. Media, that's all around us. But say for whatever reason you ain't practicing a particular religion and you just don't happen to have a TV or radio, and you do get some families try to keep their young people away from those things. You know, they try, God bless them. But social class, what is social class? The different social classes you're in. Like any credible sociologist, professional, somebody who studied, they have a degree in it, they actually defended a thesis in it, they'll tell you social class plays a big deal. Now, I've talked about this on my main men's channel. I've talked about it in terms of relationships, how men and women will relate according to their social class. So there's a big difference in how someone in, I'll say, the lumpen proletariat, the very poor or working poor, or, you know, living off of government assistance of some type, or even in the, criminal underworld, you know, how they may behave is going to be different from somebody who's upper middle class or even wealthy. There's a total difference. You're shaped by your environment, and it starts from the moment you're born. Depending on where you were born, first of all, your family. Say your family is poor. You're in a poor family. If your parents are even together, they have a different view of life. Every day is more about survival. That's typically going to be in a neighborhood, in an environment where other people are poor as well. So everybody is behaving a certain way. It's more in terms of everyday survival. And if that poor neighborhood has a strong criminal element, which many do, the underclass, I mean, let's just be real. You going at crime can be a way of life because it's more about survival. You know, like everyone having a little hustle or something. It's totally different. It's totally different. You're shaped by that. You're shaped by that. But say in a parallel universe, you're born into a wealthy family. Everything is taken care of. You don't have to worry about you ain't worried about survival. You got plenty of food. You're going to go to the best schools. You're going to live in an environment that's going to be very peaceful. It's going to shape your behavior, how you respond to everything. Like class is very important. And contrary to the myth, most people don't move up between classes. You only get a tiny, tiny percentage. And even some athletes and entertainers, yeah, they might make a lot of money, but they'll still, like if they came out of a poor environment, they still going to have some of the same behaviors. That's why you'll get some professional athletes or some entertainers, and yes, they have money, they got fame, but their behavior isn't any different from what you see in a lower environment. And you can even tell this with the entertainers who didn't come from that environment. All entertainers didn't come from a poor environment. You know, usually like poor environments or middle class environments, solid environments. But their behavior is going to be there because that's going to touch you in an intimate way. Okay, you born into a poor environment. Okay, you always going to be concerned about basic survival, eating, keeping your head on the swivel. In fact, I remember the conversation with some people a few times who had grown up in poor environments, and they always said the same thing. You learn to keep your head on the swivel. You learn to always be looking around because that's how stuff happens there. But if you take that same person in a parallel universe, you put them in a wealthy environment where it's very safe, you're going to notice they don't have the same things. In fact, I think I've talked about that with someone, had a conversation about that. I always remember it because we were talking about women, particularly young white girls who were born in wealthy environments, how carefree they are. And just to keep it on that race thing, comparing that to white women who were born maybe in environments where a trailer park was normal. In fact, and they will grow up as poor. It's a very big difference. but if they were shaped by the environment. Some people talk about the whole argument of nature versus nurture. Nature being your native IQ and personality traits and all of that. But it's there, but it's a combination of both because it depends on where you put them. Like if you put a young man in a very poor environment, you know, he might, you know, through a combination of things, he might be able to rise out of it, or he might become a gang leader because he's a natural leader. You know, so it's like, okay, let's do all this criminal stuff. But if you put that same young man in a rich environment, that he would probably become a captain of industry. He would probably be put in the best schools, and instead take that leadership and become, you know, maybe a politician, corporate CEO, something like that. But it's shaping his behavior, his response. He might have a natural response, but the social class he's in is going to shape how he's going to behave, how he's going to express his native talents. It's very important. Now, you get some people, they act like it don't exist, but I would say this to every single one of them. I would look them in the eye and say this. Only way you could say it doesn't exist, you haven't experienced different classes. Because, and this is one area I know this from personal experience, because I've been in a very poor environment, but then I had relatives who had beach homes. I actually had a pony as a child, but then we had to go back home with my mother who had, she had nothing. And even she lived a little bit better because she lived in a house owned by my grandmother. But then there were other people in that environment, they didn't have it even that well. But I noticed the difference because one of the things I noticed, I would be in that very poor environment, but then visit my grandparents. Now they were divorced and had, you know, both had different homes. And I would stay with one night, the other one the other night. And, you know, what I would see is I was like, you know, it's a total difference in this neighborhood as versus that neighborhood and how everyone behaved and everything. But that's a social class thing. It's a definite behavior shaper. And, you know, and that's very important to really think about. Now, this week, I ain't talked about religion, media, social class, but just understand so many things shape our behavior. Yes, regardless of our native talents, you know, how we respond to things, you know, the environment and everything. Like if you want to know how anyone behaves, look at the environment. You can look at animals. Like there's a big difference in how a lion in captivity in that environment behaves as opposed to a lion in the wild. They're going to be, in fact, you probably couldn't put that lion in captivity out in the wild. I think I've seen some cases where they've done that and the lion in the wild didn't survive as well, you know, because they were raised in a different environment. So it's very important. And no, this is just what I talked about this week is just brief. It's just brief. If you want to really get into behavior shaping and all of that, that requires classes. That is shit. They could probably do a whole channel just on that, and then bring the academic references to justify what I'm saying. So, but it's there, and it's just something to think about. All right. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I want y'all to think about everything I talked about today and this week, all right? And I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.